Good morning and welcome. To understand executive functioning milestones, challenges, and implement effective strategies at home for children in upper elementary. We're excited to have four presenters with us today: Ashley Lotfabadi, Wanda Taylor, Claire Geinsner, and Sue On, our behavior intervention teachers here from FCPS's Behavior Intervention Services. Behavior Intervention Services provides behavioral intervention and support for students receiving general education and/or special education in grades pre-K through 12. Behavior intervention teachers are assigned to each pyramid and work closely to collaborate with the administrators and staff to develop systematic plans for behavior. I will now turn it over to our presenters.
Thank you, Diana. Nice to see you all today. My name is Ashley Lotfabadi. I am a behavior intervention teacher, and I support part of the Oakton Pyramid, and I'll have our other team members introduce themselves as well.
Good morning, my name's Sue On. I support the Langley Pyramid as well as Crossfield, Navy, and Hutchison.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wanda Taylor. I support Region 3 in the West Potomac Pyramid, and I also support Norton Station Elementary.
Hi, I'm Claire Geinser, also a behavior intervention teacher for Region 1, the Madison Pyramid.
We want to welcome everyone today, and we wanted to introduce you to our second session in this series. The series is broken down by age groups, targeting strategies and developmental milestones for each group. And today we're focusing on the upper elementary grades of 3rd through 6th grade, and listed our future dates for the webinars and the rest of our series, as well as the one that we did in January, which is available as a recording on YouTube if you're interested to see that one as well. Today, we're diving into the concept of executive function, which plays a critical role in a child's development and learning. Our agenda will cover what executive function is, how it impacts behavior, and specific skills like working memory, metacognition, goal-directed persistence, goal-directed attention, and focus and cognitive flexibility. We'll also touch on strategies to support children, including modifying the environment, teaching skills directly, and providing motivation and reinforcement. By the end, you'll leave with actionable steps to help foster executive function in your child. So let's get started. What does executive function mean? Executive function skills are essential for managing all the information, tasks, and decisions we face every day. For children, these skills are still developing, and it's normal for them to face challenges in one or more areas, like paying attention, staying organized, or managing emotions. These skills are crucial not just for academic success, but also for building good behavior habits and healthy relationships. And today we'll talk about how to recognize where your child might struggle and explore strategies to help them grow in these areas. Now that we've introduced executive function skills, I want to share a quick video that explains these skills in a relatable way. The video highlights how executive function works in our everyday lives and why it's so important for children as they grow. Let's focus together on the examples given, as they'll help you better understand how these skills impact your child's ability to learn, manage emotions, and complete tasks. And video really provides a great overview of how executive function develops and why it's such an important part of a child's growth. You might have noticed some of the skills or challenges they describe that seem familiar based on your child and your own experiences in the morning. And as we continue, we'll discuss how to recognize signs of underdeveloped skills and explore practical strategies to support your child's development in these areas. I don't know if you know this, but our brains do not fully develop till the late 20s, meaning as a parent, it's going to be our role to be their support as children develop these skills. So for example, you might need to set up a system for how your child leaves for school with all the materials they need for the day before we expect them to be able to do it independently. And even when our brain is fully developed, that doesn't mean our brain isn't flexible. Executive function strategies are skills that we can all learn no matter our age or abilities. Everyone is in a different place with their own executive function skills and underdeveloped areas. That doesn't mean you can't learn and implement these strategies right along with your child. If you feel like this is an area of growth for your child and yourself, go easy on yourself. These are skills that can be learned with practice no matter your age. It might be important for you to check in with yourself and identify where your strengths are or your underdeveloped skills are. This is difficult. Give yourself the grace to learn this first for you before introducing it to your child. And as we talk today, think about how you might use these strategies in your own life. How can you develop a morning routine that you can stick to? Or where can you add checklists into your life? Maybe how you can use timers or post-its in your own day-to-day. But remember, this is a process. And we're meeting everyone with grace and kindness as we build on these skills we already have, whether we're thinking about ourselves or our children. And children's behavior often reflects their executive function strengths or their challenges. For example, a child struggling to follow directions might have weak working memory. A child who resists transitions may need help with cognitive flexibility. These behaviors aren't just defiance or inattentiveness. They're often a sign of underdeveloped skills. And by understanding the executive function skills underlying the behavior, we can approach challenges with empathy and strategies that work. Wanda's going to break down the key components of executive function and their role in shaping behavior.
Thank you, Ashley. So we know that executive functioning skills are all connected and they work together to support a child's ability to be successful in learning, behavior, and relationships. At the center is self-control, and that serves as the foundation that develops when the other skills are built. So self-control allows children to regulate their emotions, their behaviors, impulses, helps them to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. So surrounding self-control are the 5 key executive functions that contribute to this development. And they are cognitive flexibility, that helps them adapt to changes or new information. Goal-directed attention, which allows them to stay focused and on task even when there are distractions. Goal-directed persistence enables the child to push through challenges and complete tasks over time. Metacognition is the ability to think about their own thinking, helping them evaluate and adjust their own strategies. And working memory is what allows children to hold information and access it when needed. So by supporting all of these skills, we can help our children build strong self-control and independence over time. Self-control is one of the most visible executive function skills and is often the one that we focus in on the most when we're supporting children. However, what's important to understand is that self-control doesn't develop in isolation. It is the result of all these other executive function skills working together. So before children can demonstrate age-appropriate self-control, they need to have these foundational skills. So by strengthening those foundational skills first, we can set children up to demonstrate better self-control in their everyday lives. All right, so let's get into a little bit about working memory. So what we know about working memory is the ability to hold information in your mind and access it when needed. For school-age children, this might look like being able to complete 2 or 3 chores, or remembering instructions after some time has passed, or following 2 steps of a routine without prompts. Working memory is essential for following multiple step directions and staying engaged in learning activities. When your child struggles with working memory, you may notice they forget what you just said, or they might lose focus or lose track of the task. We'll discuss ways to support and build this skill to set your child up for success. So working memory strategies, let's look at this. So one strategy you might use could be a visual cue like the one you see on the screen, or a physical cue like placing your backpack by the door to remind your child to grab their backpack before they leave to go to school. I know I do this all the time. I always put stuff by the door so I don't forget. I leave my keys in a certain place so I don't forget. So that's one way you can help your child. You might even need to check for understanding of what you just said to make sure they understand. Another strategy to use for improving working memory is through songs, rhythms, or mnemonics. For instance, you might have heard your child share a mnemonic, never eat soggy waffles, for the signs of the compass, north, south, east, and west. Or, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, for the order of operations. These mnemonics can help your child remember new concepts they are learning in school. You might even be able to come up with your own mnemonics or songs for a routine you're doing at home. Another great strategy is switching up roles. You can have your child pretend to be the teacher and you have them teach you or their siblings any newly learned concepts. And just like in the video, we saw the checklist. Checklists can help them remember what's needed to be done for that day. Checklists can be done before or after school, and even on weekends. To help with predictability, checklists can be helpful for special events when you have like a family trip or you're having holidays. Next up is metacognition. Metacognition is just simply thinking about your thinking. It allows children to reflect on their thoughts and emotions. This skill helps children with emotional regulation and self-awareness. For example, when a child recognizes they are frustrated, they can think about what they should do next, or they can determine more than one solution to the problem and make the best choice. They also may be able to adjust their behavior after getting feedback from an adult or observing their environment and others. Developing metacognitive skills support problem solving, emotional intelligence, and decision making. So look at some strategies for that. When looking at how to support metacognition at home, we might consider talking about thinking. After your child has finished a book, you might ask explicit questions about what your child is wondering or thinking about the story and making connections either about another book or even about themselves. You might even model your own problem-solving strategies out loud. Anytime we see that your child is reflecting on their actions or situations that occur, we should celebrate, name, and acknowledge what they're doing. So we can say, great job reflecting on the last time you forgot your library book and how you felt. Let's remember to pack it tomorrow. Some children might even need visual reminders throughout their environment to stop and take a minute to stop and think. Checklists can also help us visually as we are learning the skill. The visual on the slide is a great example. So you can see it says, what will I do? How will I do it? And am I done? Next up is goal-directed persistence, and that's the ability to keep working towards a goal even when challenges arise. For those learners, this might mean finishing a puzzle, completing a project, or practicing a new skill, like doing a cartwheel or dribbling a soccer ball. It involves perseverance, focus, and motivation to stay on track. If this skill is undeveloped, you might notice your child gives up easily or becomes distracted. So one challenge that families often have is a messy bedroom and trying to get their child to clean up or tidy up. It can definitely be overwhelming for a child to take on this challenge and persevere through such a large task. What a great opportunity to practice some strategies around goal-directed persistence. You can break down the activity into chunks. Let's pick up all the books first. Then you're close. You might even need to coach them through more difficult steps. To motivate, this also might look like supporting your child to use a vacuum cleaner or starting a load of laundry. To motivate and make it fun, You might put some of your child's favorite fast-paced dance songs to listen to as they work. Then thinking about how to make the task relevant to them. They may not even care if their room is clean. They might be motivated. They might be motivated just by access to an activity or time with their friends or outside time when they're all done. Cleaning your room takes on new meaning when you become a part of the process. It gives you the opportunity to see how much support your child might need and where they can be independent. As you see their success and continue independence on persisting through a difficult task, then you can begin to fade your support. Next up is goal-directed attention and focus. This allows us to stay focused on tasks even when there are distractions in the environment. For example, when working on homework and a sibling is close by playing with toys, it's important to give your child feedback verbally or visually to help them remain engaged and stay on task. The ability to sustain concentration in order to listen, to think, or to watch with interest can be supported through the use of visuals, whether it's a timer, a sticky note, or a first-hand visual. These visuals provide concrete representations of tasks, time frames, and upcoming activities. Also, having a space free of distractions and minimize noise allows children to maximize their focus and productivity. Cognitive flexibility is the ability to adapt when plans or routines change. For children, this might be accepting changes in a schedule, recovering quickly from a disappointment, or taking redirection from adults. It is also seen when children interact with one another. Children who display this skill do not need to be in charge of the game or the activity they're playing with others. They can take turns and lose gracefully, and then they can also share toys and tools. When this skill is undeveloped, children may struggle with transitions or become upset when things don't go as expected. Helping children build this skill reduces frustration and makes transitions smoother. It is important to keep a relatively consistent and predictable routine and environment for your child, but also prepare for upcoming changes. You can consider role-playing and practicing flexibility. As you are teaching your child to be flexible, model your own flexibility. It's important for you to provide your child with clear examples of how they can be flexible. And this could include saying out loud what you're thinking and doing and being sure to explain the advantages you get from being flexible. So for example, an adult modeling flexibility could be at breakfast. The adult says, "There's no milk for my cereal this morning. I guess I need to come up with another plan and be flexible and make toast instead. That way I will not be hungry or mad. And later today, I will go to the store and buy milk so we can have cereal in the morning." We model for our children how to regulate our own emotions when things don't go the way we want them to. Next up is Claire, and Claire's going to start talking a little bit about executive function milestones. Claire, you're muted.
Thanks, Wanda. Sorry. So we're going to jump into the school age milestones, which goes through 3rd through 6th grade. So understanding and recognizing these milestones you see for your child can help you understand their developmental progress. It is important to remember that there is a range in how these skills develop. So some of those waiting skills may come while attention and focus may take a little bit longer. It's not a straight path and it depends on the individual. So for example, children who clean up their bedroom independently may require support for keeping track of their daily schedule. So as a reminder, these skills do not develop all at once, and some may show strengths in certain areas and have weaknesses in others. It's important to acknowledge the gaps in executive functioning and that it can sometimes lead to frustration for you and your child. It can be difficult to see strengths in one area and think about how someone is very behind in another skill. But as parents, you can reflect upon your own executive function strengths and weaknesses, and that can help us to understand how our relative strengths might make our child's challenges feel even more noticeable. So going along with those milestones, we've linked underdeveloped skills to look out for. So children with executive function challenges may show specific signs such as struggling to follow routines, manage emotions, or adapt to changes. It is important to remember that these behaviors are not necessarily intentional. They often point to skills that need more practice or support. With the increasing use of technology, children are also spending more time on devices, which can make these executive functioning difficulties even more challenging. So technology has been seen to create distractions, disrupt routines, and even delay the development of essential skills like attention and self-regulation. So as parents, when you're looking at these underdeveloped skills, it's an opportunity for you to reflect on what experiences and practice your child has had with these skills. And just remember that you should only consider it a dysfunction or deficit if these skills have been taught and practiced over time and your child is still struggling. So when we approach these challenges with empathy, we can see them as opportunities to teach and guide our children rather than simply viewing them as problems to correct. So now that we've identified some of the common signs of executive function challenges, we're going to shift our focus to practical ways we can support our children. So understanding the challenges is the first step, and the next step is figuring out how we can help them develop these skills. This is where strategies like modifying the environment, teaching the skills directly, using motivation and reinforcement, and then gradually fading supports. Each of these approaches provides different ways to empower your child, reduce frustration, and then help them succeed. In the next few slides, me and Sue are going to dive deeper into each of the strategies to give you more practical tools for supporting your child's growth in executive function. So I am first going to go over the environment. So we've highlighted 3 things that we can change. The first is the modifying the environment. So the environment that your child spends the most time in. This could be after school programs, their bedroom, their workspace or playroom. So one of the best ways that you can help your child with these skills is to change their environment to make things easier for them. First, you can change the physical or social environment, like reducing distractions or adjusting who they work with. And then second, you can change the nature of the task, like breaking it into smaller steps or making it fun by including toys or activity that your child enjoys. And then lastly, you can change the way you interact with your child, like using reminders, practicing situations with them ahead of time. And these changes can help make a big difference in helping your child stay focused and successful. We're going to talk about each of these ideas in more detail next. So first, with changing the physical and social environment, it is a powerful strategy for supporting your child's executive function development. You can do this by creating clearly defined workspaces, as well as reducing distractions like turning off the TV or putting unnecessary items away. That can help children stay on task and then process the information better. In addition, you can provide clear storage boxes for school materials or a simple schedule. That can also help your children to stay more organized. Next, or second, is changing the nature of the task. That can help it make more manageable for your child, especially if they're struggling with staying focused or completing tasks. So one way you can do this is to make the task shorter. You can break it down into smaller, more achievable steps. You can build in frequent breaks that allows your child to rest and reset, which can improve their focus when they return back to the task. Another strategy is to give your child something to look forward to once the task is completed, like a reward or fun activity. And making these steps more direct and creating a clear schedule helps your child know exactly what to do next, reducing confusion. Finally, building choices such as letting your child pick which part of the task to start or how they want to complete it can make the task feel more appealing and empower them to take ownership. Sorry. So lastly, we're going to go over changing the way you interact with your child, and that can make a big difference in supporting their executive function development. So before a situation arises, it is helpful to practice with your child what will happen so that they know what to expect and can mentally prepare. Using verbal reminders throughout the task can help keep them on track and help them stay focused. So for example, telling them next, we're going to clean up, or after this, we're going to have a snack. That helps to give them clear guidance. Visual supports like a schedule or pictures of steps can help them understand and follow through with tasks independently. So Sue is going to go into the next one, which is how we teach the skills directly.
So there are two main ways to teach executive function skills to your child. So naturally or informally throughout your day, or you can do it through a more targeted and explicit and direct approach. So both methods are valuable and they should definitely work together to support your child's development. Now, teaching informally happens during everyday moments like practicing patience while waiting in line or encouraging problem solving during play. And more targeted approach, it focuses on teaching specific skills step by step, such as helping your child learn to follow a routine or manage their time. So in the next slides, we'll just take a closer look at each of these approaches and explore how you can use them to build your child's executive function skills at home. Talking intentionally with your child is one of the most powerful ways to teach executive function skills. So one key strategy is modeling self-talk. So this means that saying your words out loud through your own thought process. So for example, you might say, okay, first I'm going to make a list of things I need to do, then I'll check them off as I finish. This helps your child see how you organize your thoughts and how you plan and stay focused. You can also show your child that it's okay to pause and reflect, and most importantly, adjust your plan if needed. So another important technique is to ask questions rather than giving instructions. So for example, instead of saying, get your bag, you could ask, what do we need to do before we leave? This encourages your child to think about next steps and take ownership of their actions. Encourage your child to check in with themselves by asking questions like, what is my plan? Or how am I doing so far? Practicing situations together, like what to say when raising their hand in class, it really helps them feel more prepared and confident. So together, these strategies teach children how to think through their actions and make better decisions on their own. Now, for those that are struggling with your own underdeveloped EF skills, this may be a good time for you to be intentional about the strategies that you're choosing to use and practice in the moment. Saying the steps and actions out loud can help both you and your child. We can support executive function development at home through games and activities. Now, these are some fun activities that are age appropriate and can fit into everyday life. These activities are grouped into these broad categories to give you plenty of options. And some of these activities include materials that you can pick up at the store, and others do not require any materials at all. So I'll go through each of them. And the first one is board games. Board games are fun and they're an engaging way for parents to support their child's executive function development. My personal favorite is Catan, and it strengthens planning and flexibility and problem solving as players strategize resource management, and then they have to also adapt to changing game conditions. Another family favorite is Codenames, and it challenges working memory and cognitive flexibility. It requires players to make connections between words while thinking from different perspectives. Bananagrams build processing speed and organization, as players quickly form words and then have to rearrange letters to fit new patterns. Clue, which is very, traditional and has been around for a while, is also a lot of fun because it sharpens this logical reasoning and inhibitory control, encouraging players to track information and make deductions and avoid jumping to conclusions. Memory games are fun, and they're also effective way to strengthen executive function skills in children. The telephone game, which enhances working memory and auditory processing, as players must recall and accurately relay the information without distortion. Another game called Sleeping Queens encourages players to remember card values, adapt their plans, and use problem-solving skills to wake the queens. Memoir with a triple R requires players to track hidden card locations while predicting opponents' moves. These games really do help children develop focus, recall, and adaptability skills that support everyday problem solving.
And Sue, I just have to put a plug in for Sleeping Queens. That's a family favorite of ours. My daughter plays it all the time. And through kind of developing this webinar, I purchased Memoir, or however you pronounce it. So I'll have to give an update on how that game goes, but it looks really fun to play.
And there are a lot of really cool games out there that's been around for a long time, and a lot of new games as well. Again, our family loves these fast-paced games, and these fast-paced games help children strengthen executive function skills in more of that fun and interactive way. Perfection, it boosts processing speed and impulse control as players race against the clock while staying focused and precise. Headbands enhances working memory and cognitive flexibility. It requires players to ask strategic questions and recall previous clues and adjust their thinking based on new information. And we all know Uno, which develops inhibitory control, flexible thinking, as children must follow changing rules, plan ahead, resist the urge to play game impulsively, try not to cry when their siblings cheat, all the above. I love Spot It. I play it with my parents. Try to keep them engaged as well as they get older. It's a quick game that hones visual attention, and we all know Simon and Bop It, which are one-person games where they have to follow prompts by words or sounds to reinforce that verbal attention. So a quieter option could be Freeze Dance, where kids have to freeze when the music stops. And there are also activities like Simon Says or Follow the Leader. And these are wonderful for teaching impulse control and listening skills. These are great because you can make these as silly or as simple as you like. And the best part of these last few games are that you don't really need anything to play. Logic games encourage problem solving and planning. You can try Rush Hour, and they also have Rush Hour Junior, which is a puzzle game where kids move cars to unblock a path. For a no material option, you can also make up riddles for your child to solve. We all know Where is Waldo? These books and other search and find books are great for those visual attention and perseverance. They keep kids engaged while they're working on finding that specific items in those busy scenes. These are especially helpful for building focus in a more fun way. Games like Connect Four, checkers, chess, they all encourage planning and strategizing. And for our older children who love sports, they can be part of fantasy football for those long-term projects that require them to plan and also goal set. Puzzles teach kids about spatial reasoning perseverance, and planning. So for this age group, start with puzzles that may have a little bit larger pieces or fewer pieces. And then you can also work up to more complex ones as they grow up, including 3D puzzles, jigsaw puzzles. And they can do simple word searches or word puzzles like crossword or word searches. And there are a lot of non-word puzzle options too, such as Sudoku or Rubik's Cube. And these are all really great for focus and problem solving. And finally, there are movement-based games to help with self-regulation and focus. And for some of our children who have a lot of energy, to burn some of that off. Twister, right? Floor is lava, or even active video games can encourage that body space awareness, as well as quick decision making and creative thinking. Or just tried and true tag to play with your children or to facilitate for your play with your children to practice that responding quickly. This is a list of top 20 routines children struggle with the most. You may look at the slide and see all 20 as routines that are challenging in your household. Now, we're not expecting perfection overnight. But if you do feel like you're starting at the very beginning with building these routines, we recommend viewing our last training last year, and it's called Proactive Strategies for Effective Communications that can support you with building this framework. So for today, let's just identify one routine that you believe your child would benefit from. And as we go through the steps on how to teach these routines through direct intervention on the next slides, just kind of think about that one specific routine. To directly teach your child's executive function skills, start by identifying the specific behavior or skill that needs attention. So for example, if your child struggles with getting ready in the morning independently, the first step is to really pinpoint where they're getting stuck, whether it's figuring out how to get started or staying focused. Then next, you want to set a clear and realistic goal, like I can clean my bedroom. Then you want to break the goal down into small and manageable steps, such as put dirty clothes in laundry, put clean clothes in the dresser closet, throw away trash, and return things to other rooms. Now, although this seems obvious, to really understand these behavior, each one of these, there needs to be explicit teaching and what it means to put clothes away in dirty laundry, right? It can't be near it. It has to be in the bag, where it is, when to do it, right? So there needs to be explicit teaching. There should be modeling, and then creating opportunities to practice it outside of when it needs to be done. So it takes a lot of time and effort and consistency on your part as an adult to make sure that this is taught explicitly and consistently. Then you can turn these steps into a checklist to help your child stay organized and focused. And at first, you'll need to supervise them closely, giving gentle reminders and offering support as they follow the steps. Over time, gradually reduce the supervision, allowing them to become more independent while still providing that encouragement and feedback. As you identify the underdeveloped skill and set goals, this may be a good time to include your classroom teacher or case manager if your child has an IEP and share what you're working on at home. When developing strategies to support your child's executive function, it's important to consider their age and stage of development. So younger children may need tasks broken down into shorter steps or fewer steps, and they may need more time with pictures and more supervision and support from you as the caregiver for a longer period of time. Waiting is an essential skill that helps children build patience, self-control, and the ability to delay gratification. But it is so hard for children and adults alike, because in this today's fast-paced world, the opportunities to wait aren't as common as they once were. So everything from entertainment, where we don't have to listen to commercials or wait for commercials, to go back to our programming, to getting our groceries and things that we need through Amazon overnight, or sometimes even the same day shipping. It's so readily available and it's so instant. So this video highlights the importance of developing this skill and how it can impact your child's success. So as you watch, think about waiting and how it plays a role in your child's daily life and the areas where they may benefit from more practice. I've seen videos where little kids would eat the inside of the marshmallow, trying to trying to fool the moderator, saying that they didn't eat it, but it was just the inside that they ate, and things like that. So waiting is hard and it's uncomfortable, but having children creating these uncomfortable and hard incidences, it gives them opportunities to self-regulate, to be resilient. So when they get older, they have these skills. And so this video definitely shows how crucial waiting is for developing these strong executive function skills. Now, to help your child practice waiting, just build it into your everyday routine. So like waiting a few minutes before snack time, taking turns during games, setting a timer before starting an activity. Uh, when waiting in a doctor's office, we don't have to do screen time or distraction. Actually, boredom, research shows, creates creativity. So creating these moments of boredom where the children will have to find ways for them to regulate themselves or get into their own thinking, giving these opportunities really help them build self-control and resilience over time. So by, again, creating these opportunities to wait, you're giving your child the tools to manage their emotions and stay focused in challenging situations. Technology can be both a helpful tool, but also a challenge when it comes to developing executive function skills in children. So on the positive side, technology can provide engaging, interactive ways for children to practice skills like organization, time management, and even self-regulation through educational apps and games. However, excessive screen time can also have a negative impact, leading to distractions, difficulty with focus, and disruptions in routine. So for caregivers, modeling your own healthy use of technology is key to teaching children how to use technology in a more balanced way. You may set expectations as a family, such as no tablets or phones at dinner, and by setting these clear boundaries around screen time and demonstrating mindful phone usage, parents can really reinforce that healthy use. Healthy tech boundaries not only help children develop these better habits, but really can support your teachers who may be struggling with children's use of technology in the classroom. And I see this all the time where it's a struggle because it can be more engaging than technology when the teacher is trying to teach or transitioning out of the using of tech in the classroom. It can be really difficult. So by doing this, kids can focus and then engage effectively in both the home and classroom environment. Motivation is an essential tool in helping children develop and apply their executive function skills, especially when it comes to following rules and completing tasks. When children are motivated, they're more likely to use executive function skills that they've already used and already learned, whether it's following directions or waiting, staying organized, or managing their emotions. Positive reinforcement, such as praise or reward, not only boosts their confidence, but also it encourages persistence and effort. Um, Punishment does not help skill development. It actually often discourages effort and makes children afraid to take risks or try new things. So instead, focus on celebrating progress and making tasks enjoyable, whether through fun activities or acknowledging their hard work at the end. A formal system can be a great tool, but remember, it's that positive feedback and encouragement that really helps children see the value of their efforts and motivate them to keep going. Knowing when to start fading supports is also key to helping your child become more independent with routines and executive function. So all these things that we mentioned takes a lot of direct support, direct effort, a lot of direct engagement. But when you begin to fade support, when your child consistently completes a task or routine, that's when they don't really need as much reminders or maybe little to no reminders. If your child can explain the steps of the routine or skills in their own words, that's a strong indicator that they've internalized it. Additionally, when they can recover from mistakes or interruptions on their own, they're ready for less guidance. And finally, when your prompts or cues are no longer necessary and the routine feels like a natural part of their behavior, that's when it's time to take a step back. These moments show that they've gained the skills, self-reliance, and all of that to handle the task on their own. So how do we start fading support? Fading support is an important step in helping your child build independence with routines and executive function skills. The goal is to gradually remove the support you've put in place as they grow more confident and capable. First, start by reducing how often you give reminders or visuals, allowing them to rely more on their own memory and problem-solving skills. Remember to encourage that self-monitoring by asking questions like, what do you think comes next? Instead of just providing the answer. Simplify any tools like checklists as they become more comfortable with the tasks. As they're more successful, provide positive reinforcement to boost their confidence and motivation. Now, over time, you can slowly make the tasks more challenging, and this will help them to grow without feeling overwhelmed.
As we wrap up this presentation, I want to ground us in the idea that these executive function skills are the foundations for so many aspects of a child's success. These skills help manage their emotions, stay focused, and adapt to challenges, whether at home, in school, or in social situations. And by supporting these skills now, we're setting up children for long-term success. As we discussed earlier, self-control is the outcome of several executive function skills working together. And the good news is there's so many ways parents can help build these skills at home. Those simple games, structured routines, and intentional teaching moments are incredibly effective. The key is making it engaging and keeping it consistent. As parents, modeling executive function skills is one of the most powerful ways to teach them. Think out loud. Show your child how you manage challenges and break skills down into smaller steps so they're easier to learn. Over time, gradually reduce your support so children can take more responsibility. And remember that building executive function takes time and practice. It's a process, not something that happens overnight. So be patient with your child and yourself as you work together to develop these skills. Celebrate small successes along the way because they add up to big progress. And I want to take the moment to acknowledge how challenging it can be to support your child's executive function development. Parenting is not easy, and these skills take time, patience, and consistency to build, not just for your child, but for you too. And the good news is that the brain is flexible, meaning it's never too late for your child to learn and strengthen these skills. Growth is always possible with intentional effort and small, meaningful changes. So take a moment to think about 1 or 2 simple strategies from today that you can think and start using right away, whether it's adding the visual schedule or practicing self-talk or creating opportunities for waiting. Remember, our goal isn't perfection, but progress. Every small step you take to support your child builds their resilience, their independence, and their confidence. You're doing important work, and even small changes can make a big difference over time. If you're thinking about where to get started, let's take a look again at the list Sue shared of the routines children struggle with most. These everyday tasks like getting dressed, managing time for homework, or following through with bedtime routines often require strong executive function skills that many children are still developing. And understanding these struggles can guide us in offering the right support and creating the most effective strategies at home. Moving forward, I encourage you to identify which routines your child finds most challenging and work together to break them down into manageable steps. By providing structure, clear expectations, and plenty of practice, you can help child improve these skills over time. If you want to continue your learning, these books, Smart But Scattered and Solving Executive Function Challenges, I don't know if you peeked a look at that, that blue one at the end of that first video we saw. Those are really great resources for parents who want to help their child build important skills. Smart But Scattered explains how to recognize when children struggle with organization, managing time, or staying calm, and offers easy ways to help them. And this book is available for multiple age groups. So there's adult versions, teen versions, and children versions. So if you're struggling with building these skills yourself, you might look into that book. And there's lots of other workbooks that can support your learning and skill building. And finally, that Solving Executive Function Challenges book shows parents how to identify problems with executive function and provide step-by-step solutions. As a reminder, this webinar was the second in our series of sharing resources and strategies for different age groups. So if you do have an older child, it may help to attend one of our future sessions or request a recording to be viewed later. I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And I've been trying to keep track of some of the answers, questions that were more about getting copies of the presentation and things like that in the chat or in the Q&A section. But if anybody has any more questions that they want to ask, feel free to do that now. And then there is one that I'll read, and Sue, Wanda, and Claire, I'd love for you to chime in as we kind of work through these. So the question is, I understand how this is mainly for home activities, this presentation, but I'm struggling with finding general education teachers providing my child with strategies and support for these difficulties, even with a 504. Do you help general education teachers with learning these techniques? Less things on the wall, doing things like these games during indoor recess, providing checklists, etc. They do not have time to do things individually, but how to teach the whole class, clean desk once a week, plans at their desks, etc. Can you go over how you support them? Thanks.
We do overall general support if the teachers feel like they need more, supports, more specific supports. In terms of, yes, the purpose of this webinar is to create that foundational supports at home so that they have these skills, executive function skills, that when they come to school, that they can use it in the classroom routines and the school routines that's already there. In terms of teachers, every teacher is very different, and the needs of each class is so different. So to have to say, how all teachers need to. So it really is individual basis, and if they feel like they need extra support, observation, and see ways that they can tweak the class to make sense and support the students at large in the general education classrooms, yes, we do absolutely go into general ed classrooms as well as those children, those teachers that are in smaller environments. So it's mostly when the teachers request that level of support, and then we do absolutely go and support them in the gen ed classrooms and gen ed teachers.
And I think specifically for your child, if you are still seeing kind of those concerns, I would try and, if the student, since it appears like your child has a 504, getting that 504 team together to voice your concerns and bring your concerns back to the school team to see how they can support kind of what that might look like. Okay. There was another question Kyle asked about Unsecond on Target, and Claire went ahead and kind of wrote in the Q&A itself. Unsecond on Target is a curriculum that the county uses. We do not formally put curriculum into IEPs. It is something that is available to all students. It is not necessarily something that is tied to only students who has IEPs, and it works on a lot of executive function supports. See, Diana says resources specifically for helping a child with impulsivity, learning to calm himself versus having big reactions. Can calm with support from adult, but how to build the skills for him to learn to do on his own. I mean, I think the fact that he has those skills is kind of that first step. Now, I think the next step is that generalizing. How can he start doing it on his own? How can he do it without the support of an adult? The first thing I kind of am thinking, Diana, is there is I'm thinking back to kind of the presentations we did last year again. There is one called Taming Tantrums and More. It's that proactive supports. I can put the name of it. I'll type it into your question right there. While I search for the title itself, I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts as they kind of are thinking about that question.
Yeah, one way to do that is to practice when he is not feeling calm, and then practicing it outside of that. So when this situation, what will we do? That way, when the situation comes where the child is feeling impulsive, this is where we use prompts. And first, it may have to be verbal or physical prompt. Then maybe just visual, where you're doing with your hands or fingers, and then hopefully they will be able to generalize. So sometimes we have tendency to over prompt and think that we either support or not support, but then fading that support. And that can be first doing it with them and talking them through. Then the next thing is giving them kind of a visual prompt, like what kind of not necessarily verbalizing, but doing it with them. Third can be more like, remember what we do, and asking those questions. And then just fading the prompts in that way. So again, figuring out what are the triggers that causes a child to be impulsive or needs to be calmed, and then practicing it outside of that environment, and then fading prompts, gradually as the child gets more and more independent.
I was going to add to the use of role playing or video modeling, or having the child look at a video and looking at a scenario and being able to pinpoint, oh, what could that student have done, talk through the different scenarios, or even role playing and practicing at home, or having practice at school, different ways to respond to those, whatever reaction or whatever incident is going on.
I'm looking at a few other questions. So who supports the Fort Belvoir pyramid? We have a large department, and so I'm not entirely sure who supports each pyramid, but I would recommend going back to your school team and talking to them. They absolutely know. That person's usually probably there weekly. And kind of either through the counselor, or if your child has an IEP or a 504, whoever is their case manager, to have them become a part of the team, have the behavior intervention teacher become part of the team, and then they can kind of support you and your child.
And the behavior intervention teacher, we work with school teams and the team that works with the child, but we do not work with parents directly. So again, the best way to do is to reach out to the school team.
I'm going to read this one out loud. From Rebecca. Says, Dr. An, you helped me in my kindergarten classroom 2 years ago at Colvin Run, and I just want to thank you and let you know that I really valued your time and knowledge in helping me with my student. You are great at what you do. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. You made my day. But Culver Line is a great school, and definitely you have a great support system there.
All right, so my child has IEP goals for task initiation and sustained attention with fewer prompts and is not progressing. How can we develop these skills at school?
I think it all goes back to bringing it back to the school team, and seeing how, and working with the teacher and seeing how they are breaking down the skill, and seeing where the child is getting stuck, and figuring out maybe how to pair some highly preferred activities with some maybe a challenging activity, like kind of sandwich in between, um, to get that momentum going of at least getting the task started.
I think at school they're probably targeting these skills, but also thinking about, I think to Wanda's point, a lot of kind of the motivation around it, what kind of are the things around it, but it's also how are you going to be able to support those things at home? So thinking about some of those games, some of those intentional ways of your day, supporting your day and your child's day to attempt some task initiation or sustaining attention on something that is a little bit more challenging. It may be a little bit hard to find those opportunities at home, but as much opportunities in a kind of safe, comfortable environment with familiar tools and materials may help just some of that practice to be able to start generalizing it to school. And generalizing it means you have that skill in one area and being able to kind of do it with less support or in other areas. So V says there's so much weight put on executive functions, but very little discussion on personal preference and choice. What if a child is making choice about something like not to tidy their room? How can we tell? And should we consistently, sorry, how can we tell and should we continuously insist, there we go, that a child changes a behavior? When do we become a nag rather than guiding them?
I think that is such a good question and really hard question to answer. But I would say number one, choosing your battles, right? And it depends on the age too. So the upper elementary is really that's when they're trying to challenge their boundaries because they're learning independence, and then this is where they're learning what their preference of what they like, what they don't like. Now, as a caretaker and as a parent. This is where you have to make a decision for yourself, what you feel like is prioritized and what's not. Um, but with that, thinking about, you know, bedroom being really messy is fine, if that's within the parameters of, prioritize things in your household. Now, would it be in a way that it could impede other parts of their life, like not being able to get ready for school in time? And so what are your expectations with still giving autonomy or agency to develop those independence? I completely agree with you. I don't think that everything needs to be done 100% all the time. That is not giving them that flexibility and personal preference. The way I organize my desktop on my computer is very different than Wanda or Ashley. And so figuring that out does take that trial and error. I think it really is, number one, is it worth the battle? Number two, to what impact does it have on their school, their social life, their social and their just personal routine and development that they may need that could impact later on the skills that they may need to learn at that point. So, for example, bedroom may not be an area that you feel like is a big that important, but the skills in keeping an area a little organized to a certain degree may be something that you may think they may need to develop for later other parts of their life. So there is no a right or wrong answer, but it is definitely to look at your household holistically and looking at your child, prioritizing, finding, choosing your battles, and then seeing the long-term effect, whether their impact overall in their school or the skills that they need to get. So again, you don't want to tackle everything all at once, and it doesn't have to be perfect, but prioritizing what you think is important for your child and your household.
And I was going to add too, like you can get your child involved and have that open line of communication and say, okay, this is what a clean room looks like for me. And so you set those boundaries and say, okay, this is what it looks like, so that your child has, okay, it may not be totally clean, but as long as I make my bed or I put my clothes in the dirty clothes hamper, then I'm good. Like Sue says, you figure out how is it impacting them down the road or impacting them getting ready for school, or impacting getting ready to go out for their whatever activity they may have, after school activity, if they can't find their soccer cleats or they can't find their, where materials they need for after school activities. But keeping that communication open and setting those things together so that you don't, so this is something that you agreed to, almost like a contract, basically, like saying, well, we agreed that this is what your room looks like when it's clean, and then move from there.
So let's see. I recently asked at an IEP meeting what organizational skills or EF supports could be provided for my son, and was told that basically all they can do is offer graphic organizers and give oral reminders. I have a hard time believing this. Can I ask his case manager to help him do things like help him clean out his desk and set up a system for where to put his papers? So I think kind of in this age group, that 3 through 6, things like desk maintenance and setting up systems for papers are things that kind of all students are learning, especially as we transition to middle school, and what kind of that paper maintenance is really going to look like, as they don't have a desk, right, in their classroom that they use across the day. And so I think that that's really an opportunity to talk to the school, not just about from an accommodations or an IEP standpoint, but also kind of from how those things might be integrated throughout the instruction for the class, because again, all students are really struggling and learning these skills at this age. So I would kind of talk with the school team, including the general education teacher, kind of where that instruction may be happening if it's not something that they can provide as an accommodation. And then here's another, not a question, but I found success with PCIT. It's Parent-Child Interactive Therapy, which also helped us with working on those triggers with impulsivity, power struggles, and inability to regulate emotions. Big push in training parents to positively interact with their child. Thank you so much for that resource.
And seeing no further questions, I think we'll go ahead and close the webinar. I have put the evaluation. Oh,
Diane, I think one question just snuck
Sure.
in.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
My son, grade 5, struggles with writing at school. If he can choose a topic, he usually doesn't have a problem, but at school, that's often not the case. How can I support him at home? I will say historically, writing is one of the most challenging things and subject areas for children to do. For any child, especially a child with executive function challenges or underdeveloped skills, simply because there's so much around it. There's the cognitive flexibility of having to write something that may not be a chosen topic. It's task initiation, it's sustaining, it's persevering. It's so much pieces. So I would maybe try to work with him to really kind of slow down and find out his voice of kind of where he's identifying the problem. If he can tell you where he's struggling, what part of it, and then that may help you be able to figure out how you can support some of those skills at home. But the writing process is so nuanced that it can be many things at once. So I think as much as possible, really kind of getting his voice into it to figure out next steps.
And like Ashley said, writing takes the most cognitive load in terms of there's so many different parts to it. And in terms of the topic, now, is it something that is more of like a personal essay kind of topic, or is it more connected to a content area? I think all of that makes a difference. And so if it's more of a personal topic, this is where you can help him advocate and say to the teacher, can I talk about this instead, that's adjacent to the topic? So instead of what did I do this weekend, maybe he can learn to ask, can I talk about my favorite hobby, or what I loved, what I did last week that I really enjoyed? If it's more about the topic, this is where you can support at home by broadening his background knowledge. So just having him or him be exposed to lots of different things that he can pull from when it's time to do that topic. So there is no easy answer to this because writing is the most difficult of all areas, but I think those are the ways that we can kind of suggest this moment. Oh, so he often won't write anything. Again, I think breaking it down to small pieces, maybe doing at home, you can do it verbally where you're creating a story and you take turns doing one sentence each, um, or doing like voice to text at first, and then seeing if he enjoys writing. Maybe it's also just some students enjoy typing rather than using the pencil, paper, pencil, or even whiteboards. So kind of breaking it up, sometimes going from writing multiple sentence or multiple paragraph is very daunting. So just starting with little things and having um, uh, having access that's engaging, and it could be writing in the shaving cream, or it could be like I said, whiteboard or something like that. It's really hard to say because we don't know exactly why he's not writing.
I think there's one that says, I think this is where the teacher is struggling with ideas. A training for schools would be beneficial, not just for individuals when requested. Thanks for that feedback. We definitely have district-wide trainings that we do throughout the school year on an array of topics. So we appreciate that information as we kind of plan for future ones as well. And then my son keeps biting nails. How can I help with that? I would kind of get that student voice, figure your child's voice into it, talk to him, ask him what might be going on. And then once we kind of know where the need is from, kind of then being able to use some of those skills, maybe not teaching the skills directly, thinking about how to kind of teach him to not do it. What can he be doing instead to get that same need met? I don't know if anyone else has any suggestions.
It's kind of funny because when I was teaching at university level, I had a self behavior changing class that I had students do, and one of my students did trying to, the behavior change that she wanted to see was biting nails, and biting nails is a self-soothing behavior, kind of like shaking your leg or twirling your pens. And so one way is to be aware of it. First of all, is it an issue right now? Is it getting to a place where, he's getting sick? Or so first you got to determine, is it a behavior that we want to change, or are there other prioritized behaviors? Number two, does he want to change? And if he does, it's more about self-awareness, and that could be every time he finds himself biting his nails, you can write it down, and then finding a replacement behavior like a fidget toy, or if it's more of the oral sensation, gum or other things that they can bite into. But yeah, it really has all those different factors to it. Something that feels as simple as that. Yeah, if it gets to be an infection, for sure. Thinking about, there are nail polishes that deter. I don't really like aversive ways to deter behaviors, but having them figure out, like self-monitoring if they're old enough to find when they're biting, and every time they're able to find and correct, doing the self-monitoring that ends in reinforcement, and so forth.
Yes, Diana, humans are so interesting and complex. I feel like that is probably a good way to end. Because yes, there is very easy to kind of focus on one problem, but it's so dynamic and it's complex. And so really trying to figure out what might be going on and how to support our children. It's our biggest hope that we can support them, and it's our biggest challenge. But I hope we were able to answer some questions today. And I know the recording and the presentation itself will be provided next week. So we just want to say thank you to the Family Resource Center for inviting us to come present today. And we look forward to kind of our continued collaboration through this series. So thank you, Diana.
Thank you all very much to the presenters and the participants, and hope you all have a wonderful day.